Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And my gosh, what a day it is. It's absolutely shocking what's going on in South Africa. Before I introduce our guests, South Africa is crumbling into lawlessness, prejudice against the white community and blatant corruption, largely at the hands of, the ruling ANC government. The situation now is out of control. Events that took place earlier today were covered in a video I put up this channel a short while ago. It shows a clip where a large number of prisoners who had escaped from a prison. I can now confirm that this happened earlier today. I wasn't sure when I put it up earlier. About 100 prisoners escaped from the old prison opposite Malmesbury police station. Some hijacked a small Kia bakkie. Hostage situation was reported at Swartland High School by prisoners following the escape from the prison. 2 escapees were shot dead and several were injured. Let's look at some video footage of this.
Ja, Rios, ons kom er nog weer rechte tijd in.
Now, of course, we all know that in Cape Town there was that disgraceful show of force by the South African Police Service when people were protesting peacefully. And it just goes on and on and on. There's so much happening in South Africa at the moment. It's just shocking. Now, for those people who are watching, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, and feel free to post your comments in the side chat. Okay, now I'm going to get our guests on. And let me just see, here we go. All right. Okay. So I hope you all had a good day today and are now able to sit back and listen to some stories that we're going to hear from ladies. Hi, Annari. Thank you so much for joining us.
Scott. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm very good, tired, but very good, and hopefully tonight I won't be in slow motion and all those other stuff.
You look absolutely delightful. Did you get that painting?
Not yet.
Oh,
not
it
yet.
must be still in the mail. But it's a beautiful
I think
painting.
it's still on the way.
Yeah.
You will know if I got it. I will send you a picture with me holding it. So thank you so much again for that great gift that was done through your program that was awarded to us. We're very much excited to receive it.
You're very welcome. Okay, let me get Mandy on.
Thank you.
Mandy. Oh. Helps if I spell it right, doesn't it? Okay, and while we're getting Mandy on, I'll just get Denise on. I haven't heard from Ina, so she's probably got problems with the I think his name is Elliot, isn't it? I'll just look under Elliot.
Yes, yes. I saw Denise in Klerksdorp today, so I thought, when we had our discussion waiting for one of the learners, she spoke about the 2 farm attacks, and we had a wonderful conversation. Right. So I thought it might be good if she's here, whilst Ina might not be able to make it.
Absolutely.
Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Mandy. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we're just getting Denise in. Hi, Denise. How are you?
I'm finding you.
My gosh, I've got a wonderful job, haven't I? Talking to 3 beautiful ladies.
So kind of you.
I got a heart, so that's cute. No, okay, let's kick off the live stream, Annari, with you. Tell me, how did you go with AfriForum earlier this week?
Well, Scott, all that I can say, they are wonderful ladies that we met, and there was a guy, also Henny. So Isel, Magda, myself, and then 2 of our life coaches went together, and we had a good 2 hours conversation on how we can actually possibly work together, or try to work together. And they discussed with us how they were working, and we actually used the opportunity to describe our challenges in the past 7-8 years. So it was a good meeting, and the next thing would be them visiting the trauma center in Van der Bijl Park, our center, and to see what we have, and if what we suggested we can do, might fit into their future plans or not. So we're pretty much excited. We had a date of the 5th of August, but then there was another thing that were a little bit more important. Not that it's not important to follow up with us, but we will definitely meet in the near future. They coming to our premises because we visited the trauma house in Pretoria on Wednesday, and we are very much excited. Either are we going to work together, maybe work closely together, not so close together, but we are very much excited about, talking to them again and see where God is going to take all of this. So we're much excited about it.
Fantastic. That's great news. Now, Denise, talking about trauma centers, you're establishing a trauma center, aren't you? Can you tell us a bit about your background first, and then tell us about your trauma center you're setting up?
Okay, you see, I met Annari last year, just after the accident at Driehoek School, and she inspired me to do the same in my community. I live in a small farming community, Hartbeesfontein. It's about 30 kilometers from Klerksdorp, and I myself live on a farm. I'm a farmer's wife, and the current problem in South Africa is the farm tax and the brutality that goes along with it, especially for the women and the children. And that's why I decided to establish my own organization, Trauma Center, to support victims in any way that's needed.
Right. Now, did you see what happened earlier today in Cape Town? when there was that peaceful protest by people in the tourism and restaurant industries?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, it was just shocking the way the police acted. I just want to reply to Mandy. Mandy, you won't see me because my camera's been stolen by the it's been stolen by the streaming software, but you can hear me. Yeah, so getting back to what happened in Cape Town today, you know, it was just such an overt response to people who were just saying, we're out of work, we're hungry, but because it was largely white people protesting, they brought out the water cannon, they were firing stun grenades, and, you know, it was just ridiculous. So this is in the middle of Cape Town, just absolutely crazy. Now, Denise, I just want to unpack a bit more about your experience when it comes to things like farm attacks and stuff like that, and gender-based violence. Just please tell us your experience in that area.
You know, we live about 7 kilometers from the nearest informal settlement, and that's very close to home. So you're always on the lookout for strange behavior amongst our workers. And yeah, I live in constant fear not because I'm just a woman, but you know the brutality goes along. It's not just sometimes the attack, but the rape, the assault, and the killings. And most of the times it's in front of children, or the children get murdered in front of the parents, or the wife murdered or raped in front of the husband that's been tied up. And that's a huge, huge impact on the whole family. And I don't know how to survive after an attack like that.
Yeah.
Really.
Have there been several farm attacks in your area?
Not in my area, but there was 2 this week in Ottosdal. I don't know if you're aware of it. It was a Tuesday morning and this again. It's 50 kilometers from us. It's 2 attacks in 1 week's time.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really horrifies people is the torture that so many people are attacked go through. I mean, it's just barbaric.
Yeah.
Denise, no, I wanted to chip in and say, Denise, you spoke to me this afternoon about the old Tannie, the old women, that they actually tied very hard on her pulses, and how they tormented her in a way that they actually threatened to rape her if she does not show them where the other safe was. Will you please elaborate on that?
Yes, this was Thursday, Tuesday morning. The old lady, she was tied up. Her husband just left for auction, and these men attacked her, and they tied her up, and she gave her everything she had. She opened up the safe, and the second guy came back to her and told her, if you're not going to tell us where's the second safe and more money, we're going to rape you. And she just looked him in the eye and said, you know what, then you must go ahead and rape me, because there's really nothing else in this house. And he just looked in the eye and he loosened hands a bit, and they left. Luckily, she just escaped with minor injuries on her pulse.
Oh, it's just shocking, and it's out of control. It really is out of control. And you know, getting back to those protests that were held in Cape Town earlier today, where the police were just unruly. Tomorrow, Smokers Unite are holding major protests in Cape Town and in Pretoria and other places. And, you know, you wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to be covering this event live, hopefully in all major centers. But South Africa is in such a mess right now. And a big part of the problem is the actual South African police service, which do not do their job. Well, some of them do, but a lot of them don't. I mean, they're just absolutely shocking. Now, Mandy, I don't want you to feel left out in the back there. Do you want to say hi to everybody and tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Mandy. I am a survivor of, let's call it a gang brutal rape.
Oh no.
This is me.
And you are awesome, Mandy. And I'm so glad to see you tonight on a program like this, because I saw you 3 months after that brutal attack. And I must be honest with you, I never thought that you would be where you are right now. All honor to God, but I mean, it was hard work from yourself. So I just want to say to Scott and to the viewers that when she actually describes how it happened and she was young, I don't know, I think you were first year student, Mandy, second year student.
First year student.
Yes, and you cum laude all your subjects, you continued your studying, even though it went, but tell your story. I think, I don't want to say much, tell your story. I think for me, you are such a blessing, and yes, it was hard work, it wasn't always easy.
So I'm currently 25, I'm turning 26 this year. Sorry, am I clear enough? Can you guys hear me?
No, you're good.
Okay. So I was in my first year studying education, high school education at the University of the Free State. And yeah, it was on a Thursday night, 8:30, I was hijacked. And yeah, the hijackers, first, there were only 2 hijackers on the scene. And I always make a joke, and this is how I cope with things. So viewers, please don't hate me, but you always need to look for the silver lining in everything. Like they appeared out of the ground like zombies. And I was with my boyfriend of that time, my ex-boyfriend. And yeah, it was 8:30, and they attacked my boyfriend with a hammer, his own hammer that was in the bucky, in the pickup. I don't know what you guys call it in Australia, pickup bucky.
A bucky, yeah.
A bucky. So yeah, they threw him out of the bucky eventually, and they drove off with me from one place to the other place, to the other place, to the other place, and then repeatedly doing their business. And then later on, some other people would appear, and then they disappear. And the next morning at 4:15, I was found by the police. We had a chase. They were chasing us, high-speed chase. And the police were shooting while I was in the bucky, and we got into an accident, because that's just how amazing God is. The guy that was driving at that time, I could see that he's not a regular driver. So he, I think he got so anxious that he bursted through Devil's Fork, and we hit a big stone, big rock, and they jumped out. And the police stopped shooting and came back 10 minutes later and be like, we couldn't find them. Yeah, my dad also, that's also that's really amazing. My dad was looking for me, and the same time the police found us, my dad also found us. And yeah, they told my dad he's not allowed to take me to the hospital because it will be obstruction of justice, because we have to wait on the scene for an ambulance, because I have to be transported by an ambulance. And I waited until, I think, 5:30 for the ambulance. And then my dad decided, listen, he's taking me to the hospital. Because, apparently I had to wait for the rape kit on the scene and blah, 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 blah. Got to the hospital at, let's say, 5:25. My whole family was waiting there for me. My mother obviously was waiting there. And I remember the first thing, seeing my mother, and I was just like, yeah. And then, I got that 25:5, and then the rape kit only arrived at after 10.
Oh, wow.
That morning.
They're good, aren't they?
I was waiting. They are fantastic. I'm telling you, South African police services are fantastic. And then, I had to wait in a waiting room. My family wasn't allowed to touch me. They weren't allowed to talk to me, blah, 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 blah. Then eventually so the people on duty that night, let's call them the sisters, the caregivers, the caretakers, the counselors, they were all sitting. So this was in April. So it was quite chilly in April. and it's in Bloemfontein, so it's a very cold place, especially winter time. And they were sitting there with heaters, and I was sitting there shivering because now no one's allowed to hold me. I'm obviously in shock. I'm hurt everywhere. And then hours, it felt like years later, some sister eventually that was not trained to do a J88, that wasn't trained to do a rape kit, assisted me. And what she didn't tell me during the whole process is that her glove, obviously they wear gloves, her glove broke off inside of me.
Oh no.
So 3 days later, when I went to the bathroom, you know, something just appears, and I'm like, what is this? So long story short, so first I thought maybe it was because one of the attackers used protection. So I thought maybe it's that, and later on we figured out that her glove actually broke off inside of me. Also, just to share something of South Africa's well-equipped, well-trained people. Obviously my attack, not obviously, let me not say that. So my attackers were not white. So the counselor they phoned that morning was also not white. Now I'm traumatized, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm emotionally drained. Was also not a white person. He took me into a room without windows. Yes. My mother's not allowed to go in
let me
with
just understand this, Mandy. You'd just been raped by several black people the night before, and then you're put in a room with another black male who's going to try and get you to relax. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yes. So, and then after that, we had to fight. So I'm quite feisty, you know. I always fight back, and it was me or them, you know. And obviously, I fought back up until where I could realize this, and I can't fight back no more. And there was blood in my hair, so I had like white hair back then, and there was blood in my hair over here. And I knew for a fact that that wasn't my blood. I always call him the big one because he was like, I'm quite short, and he's like gigantic. So I hit him back, and his nose started bleeding, and he bled like on my hair. And so we had to fight for them to take the DNA. And also, I mean, what do I know? You know, I only watch CSI. What do I know of any of these processes? No one in my family has ever been through a process like that. And I was like, okay, listen, I really need to go to the bathroom because obviously I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's fine. Go to the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, I can probably go to the bathroom. Maybe everything they need is like, you know. And we had to fight for them to take the stuff under my nails because I was scratching them. And sure, then the Monday the police came to my house and they're like, no, they found a girl that was also raped this weekend by the same men, and they found the exact same spot, and they took me to the spot, and that wasn't the spot, and they put me through secondary trauma. And then eventually when we found the spot with the policeman, he didn't have any evidence bags, he didn't wear any gloves, and my underwear was lying there, and he wanted to pick it up with his bare hands and put it in a shopping bag. And then my dad was with me luckily then, and I was just like, no, I'm not putting my dad through this. I'm not allowing any other man to touch my underwear. So I went to pick it up, and I went put it in the plastic shopping bag. And if that was ever processed, I don't know. Also, all the fingerprints, and let me just tell you, so the bakkie we were using, so we were driving through fields, and in South Africa, our fields are not safe, not just because it's dangerous, but we have like glass and stuff lying around. So we got a flat tire, the tire went flat, and obviously when you change a tire, your hands get dirty. Because I remember standing on the outside of the bakkie and seeing above the passenger side window, seeing the fingerprints on the white bakkie. And my case went on for, I think, 3 years after that. Then one day, I had to fight to get a new investigating officer, because the investigating officer of that time, I felt like he was a bit out of it, maybe not as fresh in the field, to put it nicely.
Are these all
And
black people?
Yes.
So
yes.
you didn't actually have a white person who came in and assisted you, or a white lady? Because when you consider what you went through, you would think that they would be smart enough to realize that that would traumatize you further. Surely to have a white female officer or whatever would have been the way to go. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Even just the female officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, eventually I got a white investigating officer. And it was never really about the race of the officer for me. It was just about the effort they would put in, he or she or it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then officer treated me badly, even worse than the first officer did. And he was like, normally I don't investigate white rape cases because I know how intense white people can get. Sure. Yeah, so I think 3 years down the line, so this was in 2018? No, I'm lying, sorry, 2013. Sorry, I'm like, No, so 2013. And I think 3 years down the line, he phoned me and listen, I'm going to close the case now. There's no evidence, blah, 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 blah. Then eventually, no. They think they have the people. I must go to do like
identify
the perpetrators, and then my ex-boyfriend of that time, he had to go with, and then we didn't agree on the photos, and years, I think a year later again, something popped up again, and the devil is so evil. Like, it was every time before I had to write a major exam at varsity, or every time when I just started a new job, so I had to go through this every single time, and up until today, they are out there hurting other people, ruining lives, stealing. So that's my story in short. That's very left out details everywhere.
I'm so sorry. The thing that really comes through with your story is the incompetency right through the whole way. From the first time you had interaction with the police, in the hospital, the investigating people, just complete incompetency all the way through. And this is the hallmark of this ANC government. Everyone, not everyone, but so many people who are in positions where they're supposed to be caring for other people who are in trauma, they just don't care. The public health system is a complete and utter disgrace.
I just have to add, I do not have medical aid. So obviously I was forced to go to
a public hospital.
Government hospital, yeah.
That I'm so sorry. I mean that. Oh, look, we had Isaac van Zyl, who's a good friend of this channel, who needed heart surgery, and he was having heart attacks just about every week. He was really in trouble, and the public hospital sent him away. They said, look, we'll call you after the coronavirus is all gone and stuff, because we don't have the emergency beds available. That is just not good enough. But that's a reality. Now,
Scott,
go ahead, Annari.
I just also want to say that about 2 years ago, Fikile Mbalula, that crazy minister, was still the Minister of Police, and I was invited to a big Indaba, where 2,000 members were gathered. And I stood up and I took the liberty to ask the minister at that stage, why did they remove so many white people from the police service? Especially if you go and look at the family child protection services, you find it it's really hard to find white women there. So I just need to also state this, that when I was in school, when I wrote my matric, the police were campaigning for members. Like at that stage, I cannot remember if it was a white or a black thing, but I wanted to go and be a policewoman. And what Mbalula said to us that day was, first of all, he said that, and that was actually just a confirmation from what police officials in the South African Police Service were still telling me for a while now, that the belief is in the South African Police Service that rape does not happen to white people. And I said in front of 2,000 people, that is a blatant lie, because we are left behind. If we look at, I was invited by the Vryheidsfront, the Freedom Front, 1 year. And I told them about what is happening in white families. And they didn't like what I was saying to them. I invited them to my office to come and look at the files that we have received, where the police did nothing, social workers did nothing, and fathers, I'm talking about white fathers, are continuing raping their little girls because there are not enough police officials, and I'm talking about women who wants to actually work on these specialized units. So in a way, I want to feel sorry for the South African Police Service, because I don't think they have the heart to acknowledge that white people do get raped. Because 3 months ago, just before lockdown, I had a case where a young girl of, I think she was 9 years old and her sister were 11 years old. And they broke the silence in telling about a rape that happened there. And I phoned head of that rape FCS unit, and she said to me, but those little girls will be seen by a black detective, and he can only speak English. You know, they will have to do their statements in English. And that's why we are adamant to say, if we can only be there in a trauma center, we have women, and that was the big thing in the meeting with AfriForum, that yes, our desire is to help these victims, like we've supported Mandy in a little way, but we were there for her, and she knew she could always speak to somebody who know the story and who could understand what she was going through. But then Henny said, we can't do just the one part, because the crucial part, and I've seen that in the High Court, where 5 statements were taken of a victim, 5 different statements. And that is a big jaw for the lawyers of the perpetrators, because they would stand there and tore that rape victim to pieces, because they would ask her, okay, so say for instance it's Mandy and her 3 attackers are arrested or whatever, they're going to say, Mandy, so which one of your 5 statements is the correct one? And it's not her fault. It is the fault of the police official who the investigating officers are changed. So this one takes a statement, this one takes a statement, this one takes a statement, and all these statements altogether does not add up. But is it really the fault of the victim, or is it as they work through the trauma, because there's no case, there's no arrest, so that then they start to remember more, or you know what, they forget some detail. Now suddenly the victim becomes the liar. You know, she's not a trustworthy, she's not trustworthy, you know. So the big thing for us right now, in just going back to Mandy, I remember you told me that in the examination room, I mean, when I was at the first murder and robbery first unit in South Africa, we fought for a proper examination room. And Mandy, you told me that night at that Bloemfontein hospital, there wasn't even lights actually. Proper things, what do you call those, examination?
So it reminds me of like those big silver tables that you like cut meat on, like in a butchery that you'd see like on movies. So it reminds me of that.
Yes.
And also just to come back to the statement part, like I also had to give like numerous statements. And then the one time the investigating officer told me that my statement and my ex's statement, they don't correspond to each other. And I'm like, but he wasn't there the whole time. So I also had to give numerous statements. And it is true, because I mean, up until today, I'm still remembering smells, or oh, that one actually had like a a mark here, or blah 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 blah. So your statement will change. And also, like, my first statement that they took was in front of my dad in the same room. I was so tired. I haven't slept in 24 hours, more than 24 hours. So I was tired. It wasn't in my home language. My home language is Afrikaans. So I was like, like it just doesn't, obviously I would not be comfortable to go into detail, even though I do appreciate the fact that my dad was there. I wouldn't be able to go into detail in front of my dad,
Well, how it should have been done is they should have had a woman in a proper investigation room with you, just the two of you, so you could have actually said exactly what happened. I totally get it. If you've got a parent there, you don't want to say things that would shock the parent. It's just they just don't have a clue, do they?
Well, Scott, I think the big thing is, that's why I was arrested. Remember that when I found that 12-year-old girl, who was stone dead, when it's like Mandy say, and I'm always emotional about this, because when I close my eyes, I can just remember the smells on Laratu. And there was no life in her eyes, because in that past or previous week, she was raped by 17 men already.
Oh, no.
17. She was 12 years old.
Oh, no.
So when I asked for a police lady to come in and take over this child, I was called arrogant, I was called a bitch, I was called everything in the woordeboek wat daar is, because I knew that I needed a woman to take this girl and to sit with her and to take down her statement. To date, none of her rapists was arrested. I was arrested. She was sent to different places of safety, and today she's a prostitute in a black community where she's doing prostitution with her baby girl next to her. And that is the reward that me and her got from speaking out and asking for a woman actually to help. I just want to say to your listeners, 40% of South African women will be raped in their lifetime. 1 in 9 rapes are reported currently. Only 1 in 9 rapes are reported. 14%, only 4% of these reported rapes, there will be a conviction. All of the others, I have cases, Scott, where fathers walk out because they have built some kind of relationship with a social worker and a police detective. And you know what? When white children say, I've been raped, they are called names. It's the most horrifying situation currently in South Africa. So for us, as the foundation, and with people like Mandy and Denise and all the others that you've seen and many more others, are really adamant to change a place where these children and women, and I will never refuse to help a lady, a teacher of color who comes out and say, Annari, please take my statement because I trust you and I was raped and I don't trust, the police. We will always help. But the fact of the matter is, if Mr. Beckett Cele does not come to the table and acknowledge the shortcomings in his police service, nothing will change. And the police should not see people like us and the neighborhood watchers and AfriForum and all the other people who want to come and assist as intruders or invaders or arrogant or whatever, because that is not why we're there. We are there to come and help. And I think, Mandy, if going back to your case and remembering how you looked 3 months after your rape, every time that's why we love you so dearly, because what you went through, you were actually raped the second time in that hospital room when she actually realized the glove broke off, but she didn't tell you, but she tried to get it out of you and she didn't tell you. And that never actually went anywhere, even though you spoke out it was on deaf ears, because when you make complaints against these people, you complain at the police, against the police, and it goes nowhere.
Yes.
They don't even open a docket.
That's how it is.
No.
Well, we've opened, in my case, I've opened cases, we've opened dockets against various SAP members. I mean, we have a case, and I cannot say because this case should still go on to trial in the High Court, where police officials and social workers, Scott, knew about 7 children who were raped, who were brutally beaten, who were, I cannot say everything, but that case, well, luckily, we rescued 7 children, and they will go to the High Court. But I mean, for 1 year, the police and the social workers knew about those children, and they did nothing until that woman came to our center, and we started threatening with the media and everything. And then it was a hell of a story to rescue, but we started that Friday morning, and Sunday night, there were a wonderful police lady, and we love her to bits, and we honor her because she is, if all of police ladies were like her, she's a gigantic police official. She jumped in with other people, and we rescued those 7 children we were allowed to go with. And yes, but how many victims are there, like Mandy, who were treated in this way and who never saw justice because of, I don't know, is it the police's own trauma? I don't know if they have the will. Like I said, when I speak to police ladies, none of them actually wants to work on these units. Denise, I know you've got close friends with the police in Klerksdorp. Is it the same when you speak to them? They don't want to work on these units.
Denise?
Yes, they're very careful. Yes. And sometimes I think they just want to look the other way. It's easier for them.
All they're really interested
But
in is a
luckily
paycheck.
Well,
Yes.
well, Scott, can I say this also to you? If anybody, and I've invited so many people who always think, you know, that we are exaggerating on some of the things, come to the office and come and read the cases there. Come and sit down, because all the cases that ends up with us is people who were at the police, people who have paid private investigators thousands of rand, but they did nothing. It's people who went to prosecutors, it's people who went to social workers. We even reported social workers who handed children back to fathers who raped them. Nothing happens. They come back with this stupid thing. Nothing could be found wrong that the social worker did or whatever. So it's kind of, we have made a decision to say, and that's what we said to AfriForum on Wednesday morning, that should we focus on that mountain, which is so hard to move right now, because I think it's fraught from the top. I don't think Mr. Tsele worries about victims. They say they do, but we don't see it when we actually have victims who break the silence. We have all these campaigns, break the silence. But when they do break the silence, they cannot be helped in their own culture, in their own language, and they are treated in the most horrifying places. And then I must also tell you, because of the corruption and all the money stolen, Scott, you must see, and maybe I must go and visit, you must see from where some of these family child services has to work. I mean, there's no internet. They sit in a container, or containers. You know, they have very little resources. I mean, I have better resources than many of these FCS. So in a way, yes, I do think they can put in a little bit more effort. But then also, if I don't have the tools to do the job, well, I still, so for me, it's hard. Mandy, I don't know if you want to say something. You know also that you've also helped a few survivors in Bloem. It's not easy for them, but then also I want to sometimes rip them and say, you know what, but tell us what you need so that we can help you to better your working circumstances in order to help our victims. Mandy, because they are the only ones who have the authority to do this.
Andy, before you do answer that, I just want to say that South Africa the ANC always blame Jan van Riebeck for everything. Soon they won't have anything to blame against Jan van Riebeck, because South Africa is regressing back to what it was like pre-1652. That's what's actually happening before our eyes. And what we're seeing is the whole social structure is crumbling. It's just falling apart because of the ANC. Sorry, Mandy, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think that the people in the police structures are very uneducated, and so it's one thing, and being a teacher, I'm really talking out of experience, so it's one thing being trained in theory. It's very easy to study something in theory, and then you never have to apply that theory. And now, as a policeman or policewoman, you get confronted with this and you're like, oh snap, what do I do now? No, let me just pass it on to the next one because I don't know what to do. And the next one is even less equipped than I am. And then this just gets passed on, and what people forget is these are lives.
Yeah.
You can either, because I do, and listen, okay, I do believe that if things were different for me, my healing process, my healing process would have been easier because the secondary trauma you go through, and then also the thing in victim shaming. So when you go and report a case, and this is what I have been asked by numerous men, women, pastors, blah, 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 blah. So, what were you wearing? And I'm like, well, it was April, so I was wearing a jean, black Tommy tackies, a grey shirt, and 2 jackets because it was cold. So, what I was wearing isn't really, I don't know what that matters.
Well, you were in a truck anyway.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't like you were walking down the street, or something like that.
Even if I was, that shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter if I'm walking down the street naked. Okay? Even if I decide to go walk down the street naked, it gives no one the right to do that to anyone. So the thing is, people don't go and report cases anymore. Then they don't go and report cases. Then they sit at home because why speak out? Nothing's going to happen. I'll just sit here on my rock and feel sorry for myself. And I've been there. And then we don't break the cycle. And the less cases that's being reported, the more perpetrators are out there. But why don't we want to go and report cases? We don't go and report cases because of the way that things are being dealt with in the South African police service. The people at the hospitals that are uneducated, that are not professional, I can talk for hours and hours and hours about everything that's wrong with the system.
Yeah.
And then someone asked me a question a while ago, but so what's right with the system?
What is right with the system? Is anything right with the system?
It's not working.
No, it's not. And
then I went back to the rape center a few times afterwards to go and see if I can maybe paint the walls or stuff like that. And the first time I walked in there, I could see that all of the people recognized me.
Yeah.
Because I think I was the first and only one that made a fuss. And I was like, you know what? Little girls, little boys have to go there. So how can we make this process as painless as possible? And yet again, it comes back to people not being educated and people thinking, oh, this is just a myth. It's not, it's nothing, it happens all over the world. It happens every day. So why are people making a fuss about this?
Mm.
So the legacies that they are leaving are the wrong legacies.
Right.
I don't even know. I can't even think of anything that is right with the system.
Now, Denise,
I think the only thing Mandy, I think the only thing that is right is the case number. Hopefully the case number is right, and that's about anything that is right, you know.
Yes.
That is if you are lucky to get a case number, because in many cases they open only inquiry, and then that inquiry disappears.
Yeah.
So that is the sad part. So if you have a case number, that is the only right thing, because at least you have got something to say, I am case number 54 of 3 of 2010. That's the only right thing. Nothing else is working. That's how it is.
now Denise, do you think there's any surprise that only 1 in 9 rapes are reported when you consider what Mandy has gone through? I mean, tell us what your views are. You've got this trauma center. What sort of advice are you going to be giving people?
You know what? I know exactly what she means, because in Klerksdorp there's a huge rape crisis center, and one time I went there to go and speak to the manager and see if maybe I can assist them. You know, it was this cold room. Everybody was just sitting on chairs drinking tea the whole time. When I asked for someone to assist me, they just said, oh no, you can come back later, you can come back. There's nothing personal about that space. It's a cold room. I don't think any victims needs to go there, because it's going to make everything worse. No, the system is not working right now. That's why many people just say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to report it because nothing is going to happen in any case. So just leave it, move on with your life. And that's the problem. And that's why everything is going back, instead of moving on and getting on with your life and healing yourself. Because you can't work through your trauma because there was no conclusion to what happened to you. No one can say, okay, now, you know what, you have this problem, let's see what we can do to solve it. Now, everyone just say, okay, you know what, you have become part of the statistics in South Africa. You're just another number on the list. And that's all. Nothing.
Sorry, I just have to add something. I just have to interrupt you there. So I think that is one of the biggest myths that I have ever heard. Your healing does not depend on whether you get justice or not.
Amen.
That's such a myth. Sorry, Denise. I'm not aiming it at you. I'm just saying that that's the myths that people are being taught. You're like, oh, if you don't get justice, no. Yes, it may hinder the healing process. It may come back now and again, and it's years later, and it's still sometimes I'm like, why can't I just get justice? You know, especially on a bad day. But you should not make that an obstacle, because that's just the devil reminding you every single day. And if you rely on getting justice to heal, I'm sorry to say it, that, and I had to make that mind move, that mind shift, because I was like, I want justice, because I want to look them in the eye and be like, I won. But I know that maybe they died of HIV already, or blah, blah, blah. They had to give answers to someone else.
Yes.
So just for anyone that's listening, you must not make justice a hurdle in your healing process. That's all. Sorry.
Did you hear that interview that Katie Hopkins had a few years ago now, with a couple of black guys who were serial rapists, and that was their fun, and they thought it was a big joke. I mean, the things that they do to people, I mean, it is just absolutely terrible. And yet, as you say, the system is completely broken, so they get away with it. Now, the only part of this that actually works are trauma centers like Go Purple and what Denise is setting up. Now, the irony is that the government don't give you 1 red cent in funding, do they?
No, Scott, I just want to say, before I answer you that question, before I came on, I just want to say, since the year 2018 to 2019, 52,420 rapes were reported.
Wow, and that's only 1 in 9. So that's 500,000 people.
Yes. So, you know what? Dealing with survivors, and I think Mandy can say, Mandy who was brutally gang raped, we have our women who were sexually groomed by the most horrifying stuff, and they grow up, and that's why we have so many prostitutes on the street. So the fact of the matter is, I have an idea and an opinion that the less help there is for these children and the less convictions there are, the more prostitutes we will have on the streets. And if you go out and you see who is booking, I mean, I worked a case in Hillbrow many years ago, when I was still in the police service, a prostitute that was murdered, brutally murdered. And then it was already ministers and high populi who was actually booking out these girls in Hillbrow who was working the streets. So no, we do not get government funding. Like I told you in my short testimony the other night, I was told I'm a white bitch company, and that's why, you know what, I will never get funding. But we have made a commitment this year, even before COVID-19, to not stop, and that we will trust God and that we will do whatever we can. We don't need a lot of money, Scott. What we need is to pay people, because if you have people like Denise who's going to work in Klerksdorp, I mean, we need fuel in our cars, we need cars to travel. I mean, I've got a car that is now, everybody knows, little Groenie, but I mean, Groenie, we were driving today and I said, Lord, where's the 4x4? Because really we need a 4x4 where we go these days, because the roads are horrible in South Africa.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, Scott, I still believe this. You know what? And it's like Denise said, now. When a victim walks into a place, she must feel more love than she's ever felt in her whole life. She must be treated in a way that gives back that value to her that was taken. And we are speaking about women now, but I told you the last time, there are more boys being raped in our country now than girls.
Oh, no.
Because when you rape a little boy, you break down his manhood and he will struggle for the rest of his life. Mandy, you met some of the men that was raped. Can you remember? If you want to tell Scott, what did you experience from those men that you met at our campaigns? We met a few of them, and it's like, they struggle. Women struggle after rape, but I do believe men struggle more after rape. I don't know. What is your experience, Mandy? You spent some time with them. We saw them. We heard some of their stories. And yes, now, what about a little boy that gets brutally raped? And he's not going to tell anybody, because the shame and the guilt, it's awful for us. What more for a boy child, or a man for that matter? It's not just a girl thing, because rape is rampant in South Africa. It's ongoing.
Denise? Do you want to comment on that?
You know what, I met, my husband has a friend, I met him a few years ago. When he was a young man, he went to the army, and he was raped by a few men in the army. And when he came back, he nearly died because of his injuries. And when he came back home, he never could have faced a woman. And he told me he became gay because he couldn't look at a naked woman, because it wasn't. And that was his story, and it's terrible. He's a special guy, and he's very friendly, but he has a lot of issues because of that one time he got raped by a few men.
Right. Now,
it's horrible.
Have you heard of slow puncture? Term slow puncture. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't know, Scott. I'm honest. I don't know,
okay.
Mandy. I don't know if you know.
I'll tell you what it is. Let me put a hypothetical situation. Sadly, this is actually happening in South Africa. Slow puncture is where, in the jail, a gang of men rape someone who's just come in, another male who's just come in. And they do it the whole night long. It's called slow puncture, and it's a term that the prisoners use. And the disgusting aspect of this is that the police often actually watch while the rape is going on. And there are also situations where young white men are arrested for doing nothing wrong. They're put in a cell at the prison station, and then they bring in these blacks into the same cell, and that's when slow puncture takes place. And of course, they land up with HIV/AIDS, and as Denise says, their lives are ruined. But this is happening right now in the cells in South Africa. Willie Jordan, the advocate, he's actually represented quite a few people who've actually gone through this slow puncture. And of course, after this evening entertainment for the police, they say to the guy, look, you can go now, we won't take out a docket against you, because they had nothing to charge him with anyway in the first place.
Well, I think there's a lot of these cases, Scott, and I can just tell you the 2 evenings that I spent in that jail cell was for me, and I never speak about it because what happened in the cells next door, I think, was so traumatizing for me. And I just thought the whole time that on Sunday morning, well, I thought the whole time they would come for me, but then there was women with me in the jail cell that I was held in. But when they removed the women on that Sunday morning, I truly believed in my heart that they would rape me that Sunday. And when they threw in a bag that my husband actually sent to the police station, my husband put my gown in. I don't know why. And they didn't take out the wat noem jy band, die Japanse band, the belt. They didn't, he didn't, well, the police didn't take out the belt of my gown. And as I was sitting there, all alone, after cleaning the jail cell, when I was told, you white bitch, you must clean the cell, I remember so good, and I feel ashamed about this, that I was planning to hang myself because of what I've heard next door, because it was going all night long. The screams, there was a cell door that was like, I don't know what happened, and I will never know because I was released that Sunday afternoon. So what you are saying to me is actually kind of traumatizing me, because, I know that when men are arrested, after that, years after that, I heard about a family who took their son who was stealing from them to the police station, and they wanted, the family had a friend in the police, and they locked him up, and that night he was gang raped. And the father and the mother of that son wanted to teach him a lesson, not knowing that he would be gang raped in the police cell. So he was released, and 2 weeks later he committed suicide. So the thing is, horrible things are happening every day, but I try to keep my focus, and with the Purple Foundation, and also with AfriForum, and with Mandy and Denise and every woman who put up a hand to say, I'm actually going to try to make a difference. We need to focus on the support we can give. I think and Mandy can come in on this, because I know she had to deal with this after what happened to her, is the shame and the guilt and the filthiness that comes with these crimes. Because it's like in houses where these children are brutally raped night after night, or where they are groomed by doing sexual favors that is horrifying, or being brutally raped. The stigma, the shame, the guilt, the horrendous triggers that comes with this has a huge impact in a victim's life, even if she survived or he survived. And you know what? We are going, and that's what we did, and that is where Denise actually played a huge role with me last year with the Driehoek tragedy. I think you remember that thing where the bridge fell and 4 people were killed, 4 children were killed at a school, Scott.
Yeah, that was awful.
We had to teach these children and the families how to deal with triggers. And I think that is what we need to do as women and as men, as family heads in our country, is to actually find ways to deal with trauma, because trauma changes us. It might not be that horrible rape, but it's the trauma on the brain. It's all the stuff that happens to us that makes us actually want to give up. And if you smell that smell, if you see something, it triggers you. Mandy, you can maybe say more about this. So, yeah, we need to teach families and children to actually deal with triggers and to ground themselves and to actually learn to cope. Like you said, you sometimes laugh or you would say something. It's for you a coping mechanism. But that's what we need to teach people, you know. So I don't know if you want to add on this, Mandy.
Yeah, like being a teacher, and I'm currently teaching at my third school. I just relocated to Gauteng. So at the first and the second school, I was very privileged to work with high school students because that's what I studied, and now my setup is totally different. But even though I was teaching languages and economics, I always made time to do, you know, some life orientation with them because they were always very open and honest with me, and I was very open and honest with them. And my motto is, if the Lord blesses me with kids one day, is that rape would not be a taboo topic. If we don't talk to our kids, our friends, our sisters, our whoever about rape, and that this is a reality, especially in South Africa, the country that we live in, this is a reality, not just in South Africa. So don't tell me, oh, but I'll be living in Amsterdam or wherever when I'm older, so that won't be a problem. It is a reality that we face every single day, every hour, every 10 minutes. That's a reality we're facing. So rape should stop being a taboo topic, number one. Be open and honest about it, because now something happens to your kid and they've never heard about it, or mommy or daddy never mentioned it, so I suppose we were just playing, you know? And then the next time, oh, okay, I suppose we were just playing a bit rough this time. So we need to talk to our kids about this, our kids, our sisters, our students, our friends, I don't care what your position is, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an accountant, whether you're the president, for all that I care, you need to discuss this. We need to work through it, because number one, rape is a taboo topic. So now when I'm a male survivor, even a female survivor, this is a taboo topic, so I can't really talk about it. Now I don't talk about it. Now I sit in that trauma every single day. I sit in it, and for a long time, I wasn't willing to talk about what happened to me. I'd be like, yeah, I was raped. I don't care that it happened, so be it. So I was trying to box it. So that's actually so wrong, because even though I'm happy, I'm healthy, I am willing to voice my opinion and fight for survivors, and you know, but still now and again, I also get triggers. And this could have been so much different if I just knew how to deal with the trauma from day one. Because now and again, I would, especially now with COVID, guys, everyone is wearing masks, okay? So a few of them were wearing balaclavas, and now it's a winter time as well. So balaclavas is a horrible trigger for me, because now we're allowed to go into shops with it. So now I'm shopping for macaroni, and then all of a sudden I turn around and then, oh, okay, hello, Mr. Balaclava. So yeah, triggers, we need to learn how to deal with trauma, because when we do not learn how to deal with it, we bleed on those around us. We are broken. I hate this term, but we are broken when we don't learn how to deal with it, what to do, where to go, to know that, listen, I have a safe space to go where I can go for a week or 2 weeks, where I can go and rest, where I can go and pray, where I can go and fight, where I can go and cry, where I can go and scream, where I can jump on the bed, where I can play, where I can listen to music, where I can praise and worship. Like, we need a place like that. We need to feel safe. I can go on for hours and hours and hours and hours about this. But yeah, the main thing is we need to learn how to deal with this, because now, years later, I am still struggling with some of it. And this could have been prevented if I just had immediately had a place like that. Yes, I went to my grandmother in Cape Town, also third-hand trauma, because at the airport, obviously paranoid, I have pepper spray with me, and I have a little box knife with me, and I have this bag of pills with me, my ARBs, my anti-STD pills, I don't know what I was on, and I almost got arrested. So yeah, I just think that we should really educate. I don't care. And I wrote this on my Facebook wall the other day. I don't care whether you are purple in your face, whether you are gutful or fed up to hear about rape. I will not keep quiet about this just because this makes you uncomfortable. Okay? Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but so be it. So be it. Man up, because this is the reality we're facing. And you living in your own little bubble, thinking you're living in this perfect world and it will never knock on my door. Like, I really hope it never knocks on anyone's door like that. But this is a reality. And thinking, oh, I'm rich, I have a BMW or whatever, or I live in a mansion, or my mother is this, or my father is the president. No. Sorry, it doesn't ask for color, for age, for religion. So you can't say, oh, I'm a Christian, so I will never be raped because I'm a Christian. No, that's also another taboo that people connect with rape. Like, oh, no, but if you pray to God, God will never allow something like that to happen. But yet again, God gave his kids or the people free will. Anyways, I'm going off topic here, sorry.
Well, I just have to say that, look, South Africa is known as the rape capital of the world, and the thing that shocks me, from listening to these stories is that when I was back in South Africa in the 1980s, if there'd been a rape situation, it would have been like major news in the local paper or the Sunday Times or something like that.
Yeah.
It would have been major news. And the fact that white men are doing this to women horrifies me, because I always thought it was just the Africans who are doing it, but it appears now as the country is just going into complete collapse.
They are not healed from the trauma in the first place that they experienced years ago.
But Scott, can I also say this? Because I had a long conversation, and Mandy, I don't know, you as a teacher, and Denise, you as well. Sometimes I am not loved for what I'm going to say next. And unfortunately, that is also something that I've learned over the past 11 years. Women, mothers, are abusing their boys and daughters, little girls and boys in South Africa like you've never seen. So when a mother bullies her own little boy, and women are raping their own children in South Africa. There's cases like that. Yes, Scott, it's happening in South Africa. Where the mother looks, where the boyfriend rapes the little girl. We all know about Poppy van der Merwe. There's so many cases. I've got a cross in my office with all the dead children in South Africa. Not all, but a lot of them. So every day when I look at the cross with these little faces on, I remember, why am I doing what I'm doing? So I said, if women, I said at one stage, many years ago, women are grooming rapists in our country. Because if you go and sit in a center, in a shopping mall, and you see how women are talking to their kids, to their boys and to their girls, and you see how mothers are talking to their little girls. I mean, they slap them around and the little boy sees, oh, mommy's slapping my sister or whatever. I mean, we are a violent nation. And I don't know if Mandy can say, she's working with children. I mean, I'm so scared, Scott, to have a discussion with, we had discussions with, like, say for instance, high school girls. Then there's 70 girls in a room. And we would say, put up your hand if you in any way were abused. The hands will all go up.
Oh, wow.
All go up. So we are living in a violent country. It's not really, yes, the brutal rapes, the farm murders are horrifying, and it will be horrifying because that is a different dimension. It's like devils unleashing on old people. It's really a different dimension. But it's also a different dimension if a little boy's, and he sits next to me and he says to me, Tannie Annari, my daddy hits me on the head with the fist, and then he would say to me, sorry for my language, you are fucking stupid. I mean, what does that do to a child?
Yeah.
What that little boy, what will become of him? So everything in our country has really going down spiral. I cannot sit here tonight. And we spoke about this in the AfriForum meeting. What about the churches? And then Henny said, the guy in the meeting said, you know, at churches, the dominees or the pastors, people don't really want to talk about these things because you don't want to put your nose into somebody else's business. And then the other thing is, to give your child a hiding is now against the law. And everybody was upset about that. But I saw, and you can come to my office, fly down, come to my office and see the way how parents, and I'm talking, we dealt with white cases only, how people are abusing. I'm talking about hitting, raping, assaulting, emotionally abusing children. Your hair would stand like this. So I'm saying, where does it all start? Mothers must come back to their roles in the house to be mothers. What is your duty? And that is part of what we discussed this morning in a meeting, is we want to take poorer families where the mothers did not dealt with their rapes and their abuse many years ago. Because I would sit with a mother and say, but how can you slap your child like this? She would say to me, but my dad did that to me, and look at me. Then I'm saying, but you're not doing good if you're doing this to your child. So something horribly went wrong, and I would love to hear, Denise, you also have a story on that, where you come from and what you've seen. We see parents in South Africa abusing, especially mothers. Mothers are evil ones, abusing their own children, and that's why I'm of opinion that some of these mothers are grooming these rapists, because I had a rapist, we heard about 2 rapists who said he was a serial rapist, and he would rape the women, and then he would cut off their breasts, and obviously they would die. And when they asked him in jail, why did you do it? He was saying, Scott, and this made sense to me, he would say to the people that when he was a little boy and he was hungry, his mother would invite a lot of men into the shack. That was a rape, a black scenario. The mother would bring in all these men and she would have sex with them. They would toss him into a corner. He was hungry and she didn't want to feed him, so he hated her. Yeah. The other white scenario was a white woman or a white serial rapist, and when they sat with him and said, why did you do it? He was telling, and this always breaks my heart, he was saying, you know, I remember that day when my mom came to me and she said, today we need to get you off nappies. You have to stop wearing nappies. You're going to learn to wear underpants. And he was excited to do this. He said, so he put on the little underpants, and it wasn't long after that, he wet himself, and she would take him to the toilet, and she would put his little penis on the toilet thing, and she would bring down that white thing on his penis. And she did that. He took a very long time to actually stop or wetting himself. But he became a serial rapist because he hated his mother so tremendously that he could not love any women. That's why he raped them. So,
society is breaking down.
Yes. So,
now, Annari, I'm going to put you in charge because I need to go to the little boys' room talking about the toilet. You just triggered something there. I'll be right back. I'll let you guys talk, okay?
Okay. Mandy, did you want to say something on that? I mean, you work with children. Am I wrong if I'm saying mothers are, we need to, women are victims, but we also need to understand where is all this anger coming from. So I don't know if you have a different opinion on this.
No, I totally agree. For example's sake, I taught a girl, she's 15, 16, and her behavior was like very weird, very, oh, tonight I'm with you, tomorrow night I'm with you. I'm like, but, I've seen your parents, you guys are well off, you always wear the best clothes and blah, 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 blah. And it turns out, well, that's what her mother does. So this is all she knows. So this is the only frame of reference that she has. That's the only thing she has. So what better, if mom can do it, then I can do it. Because this is the examples we are setting for our kids. And I mean, let's face it, my mom is my biggest hero. She's my biggest role model. So if my mom does something, I also want to do it. And this is really a true story. My mom is really my biggest role model. My biggest, I'm just her biggest fan. But if my mom used to paint her nails blue, I would also want to paint my nails blue. So the examples we are setting for our kids, it's not just the mother's responsibility. And yet again, the cycle, it just keeps on going and going and going because, I grew up in a house where mom got verbally abused at first. And it's okay. So now I start verbally abusing my girlfriend or boyfriend. Okay, so now mom is being physically abused, but she's still staying. So they must really love each other because love most now hurts. Yeah. So now I'll start abusing my girlfriend or boyfriend physically because, this is how things work. And then no one teaches us ever that this isn't how things are supposed to be. So what do we teach our kids? The same thing. What do they teach their kids? The same thing. The same thing. So it's the same cycle over and over and over and over again. So the examples we set to our kids play such a fundamental role in how they would hopefully act as parents. Listen, I'm not saying that parents are always responsible. That's not what I'm saying. A lot of the time it's out of free will and it's something went wrong, really, really wrong somewhere, but it's not always the parents' fault. The parents are not always at fault. And that's another thing that I've also struggled with, is people being like, but what did your parents teach you? Or why is this person acting like this? What are their parents doing at home? Our first response can't always be, but what's going on at home? What's going on at home? We need to stop doing that. Because now we're making the mother and the dad feel like incompetent people. And when they feel incompetent, they're being like, you know what? The people think I'm incompetent, so I might as well just give up.
Okay. But Mandy, I'm saying, I hear what you say, but when a parent, especially the mothers, and I can have long discussions on this, and Denise, I know you want to say something on this. What I'm saying is the way how we as mothers and fathers are treating, not teaching, are treating them. Yes. If I humiliate my son in time and timeously again in front of people, and I make him feel small, I'm doing something in his heart. When you sit with, and Mandy, I know you met a few of these men, but I've sat with a few men and young boys who were hurt by their mothers. I had a man, 42 years of age, who grew up with a mum who were in a lesbian relationship, and how he was abusing his wife because he hated what his mother and her girlfriend did to him. So that's actually what I'm saying. But Denise, you wanted to say something on this.
Yeah, there's young girl in our community, I met her about a month ago. She's 15 years old and she has been pregnant 2 times. The first time she was 13 years old and she had a miscarriage. And when she was 14 years old, the second baby was born. And then about 2 months ago, social workers removed the baby from her care because she couldn't take care of the baby. She was traveling and taking the baby everywhere and she was fleeing from the police. And one day when I sat down with her and I asked her, what's wrong? What happened in your life that made you do all of these things? It was a little girl, the mother left. She just left like that and she never saw her. And she up with her father, and her father passed away when she was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, and she went to the children's home. But that's where everything went wrong, because she went from the one foster care home to another one, and now she is walking on the street. She's body for money, and she even offered to sell her baby to about 3 or 4 just for money, just to survive. And I'm not saying what she's doing is right, but you can see where she comes from, because her mother left her when she was a baby and she had to survive on her own. And now she's fleeing again. Nobody knows where the girl is now. She doesn't want help from anybody because she has learned to cope on her own, but now she's selling her body to black guys for drugs and for money. Right. And that's a very sad story.
Well, I have to just say that when I look at Australia today, because I live in Australia, it reminds me of South Africa back in the 1960s, when everything was very stable. You know, if something serious happened, it was like major news. And the schooling system, or the education system in Australia, is so good. You know, that is really such an important part of every child's experiences growing up. And you look in South Africa, apart from some very, very good private schools like Michael House and Hilton College and Bishops and, you know, Gray's College, those sort of schools which really do the right thing. So many of these government schools are absolutely disgusting. And what really exacerbates the situation is they're now bringing in sex education from the age of 5 or 6. You know, that's just, it's like pouring fuel on the fire. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then they're pushing homosexuality and stuff like that. Sorry, carry on, Mandy.
No, because now they want to go try it.
Exactly.
Oh, my teacher taught me this. Let me see how this works.
Yeah. At the age of 5 and 6, Mandy, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Mandy, the other part was, I had a young victim whose father molested her, sexually touched her in ways. And last year, she sat with me and she said, Annari, I cannot do the sex education in the school because it's triggering me, it's traumatizing me. But on the other side, the groomers, the pedophiles are starting so young with our kids that part, what you said, is the experiencing part is really bad. But we found that when we go and we do something at a school, Scott, it is horrifying, because when you educate children on their private parts and where touching is not allowed and all these things, kids would come to us and say, but my daddy is doing this, or my grandfather is doing this. And then we sit with situations in South Africa where the process to actually prosecute in a case where the child is, I mean, I had the 2 little girls who were saying their father, they were 4 years old, their father were busy doing stuff on their private parts. And that's all they could say. But that case could not be prosecuted because in our system, it should be proved beyond reasonable doubt that the father did indeed do that. Now, how does a 4-year-old She can only say what she's saying to us, what she said to somebody else.
Yeah.
Now they put her through these assessments, and then she's too young to testify in court. And in that specific case, the 2 little girls were handed back to the father. So he will continue. So when she grew up, in her right mind she spoke about what daddy was doing. The police, everybody was there. Nobody did anything. She was handed back to the daddy. Like now he's doing much, much more than just doing what he did. So there should be a different way. And let me tell you this, Scott, I'm 52 years of age. I know what I've learned when I was in the police service. The rapists, especially of children, have become very clever. Very clever. And when in our judicial system, when there's not a J88, and that is that document that will say there were injuries or there were no injuries on the private parts of a little boy or a little girl, when that form does not show any injuries, the perception is the sexual deed did not happen. And many of these cases are thrown out of court, and they are making that little boy or that little girl a liar, because the little boy or the little girl is saying my father or the uncle or the grandfather did this. There's no proof on the private parts, because normally that thing happened about 3 days ago or a week ago, whatever. And one day I had some sex education from a gynecologist who said to me that I don't know if people know this. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect to a vagina. A vagina has its own ecosystem. So when something happens to a vagina, like a rape or sexual violence thing, the vagina will heal. It's got its own healing power. So when you take a little boy or a little girl or a woman 3 days, 4 days, 5 days after a rape and there's no injuries, it does not mean that the victim lied. Because God created the vagina to have his own ecosystem so that healing can actually happen. And that is the type of, I think, information that the courts does not take into consideration. When they see that J88 document and it says no injuries, that magistrate who sat in a court where he looked at the child or he looked at the victim and said, but you don't look like a victim. It was in Tanieti's case, Mandy, where the magistrate said, you don't look like the victim because look at you. So I don't know how they want victims to come into court, still bruised and battered a year later. I don't know what is in the mindset of these judges. And I also feel that very few of them have proper training in how to handle these cases. I do not believe that they are trained to sit in a court and listen to the horrific details of an Ina Bonet's case or an Anja Lessing's case or a Hetty Brits. They don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the way. Actually, very few of them. Rechter Judge Bam is one of my favorite judges. I mean, he's a good judge. Really, you can sit in his court and you can just applaud him for what he sees and what he writes down. But there's huge problems in our country, and that's why we have to make a decision. Will we focus on the difficult part, or are we going to focus on the healing and teach parents and teach children to actually be better people in their own homes and to heal from trauma done unto their bodies and that happened to them? It is not an easy thing. I think there's a lot of things that needs to happen, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Scott, before I just want to say this, I wanted to tell you this. I don't know if you know, and that's why I'm saying mothers should relook what they do to their children. In 2018 in South Africa, Scott, and this every time breaks my heart, 43 children under the age of 5 died in South Africa. 43,000.
In the family home.
12,717 of them were newborns. But when I speak about the 43,000, you will open the papers and you will read And you can go to people who are doing autopsies. We've got cases where children were murdered. The autopsy, the death report would describe blood everywhere in the body, on the head, everything. That parents will not be arrested. That case will not go anywhere. And that little boy died in vain. And that is unfortunately what is happening. We don't have a good prosecutors anymore. I don't know who to blame. We don't have good investigators. And the moral decay in our country is a big problem, because I just think nobody were prepared for 43,000 children to die in 2018. I mean, where do you get the police and the people to actually investigate all these murders? But that is children. So see the picture. 43,000 children dead, 52 women raped, and we can continue to say, where are South Africa at this stage in our country? I don't know if the president look at these stats and wonder, how can I fix this? But we are in deep trouble. That is all that I can say. We are in deep trouble. It's how it is.
Well, we know our president, Pinocchio, I call him Hippo Eyes, Cyril Ramaphosa. I mean, he can't lie straight in bed. He whenever he talks, I was listening to his speech the other night, and he was making out like everything in South Africa is fantastic. Everything is going so well. And everything he was saying was false. And anyone who had half a brain knew it. It was just crazy. Now, guys, I'm going to just address the side chat and people watching. If you've got questions to pose, please, if the moderators can just post them now. I'll be wrapping up this discussion in the next 10-15 minutes. Now, Annari, it's always a pleasure to have you on, and to get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, the atrocities and things that are happening, and this channel supports you 100%. Is there I might actually get you to give a closing message last. I might get Denise on first. Denise, would you like to just say something to people watching, just about anything that comes to mind, a message you might have for people who watch us later?
I think people should just remember that the difference between white and black people is the culture. If I'm not saying it's right, but if a white man rapes a white woman, but if a black guy rapes a white woman, it's because of their culture. They believe that they have the right to demean white women, and it's in their culture. They even rape their own, and they also believe that if they have HIV and they rape small children, they're going to be healed from the HIV.
Yeah.
And that's why in informal settlements, it's a usual daily thing if someone gets raped. Most of these cases don't even get reported because it's just another rape. They'll get out. But no one has the right to rape anyone. And no man, no children, no one asks for this to happen to them. So no one has the right to get into your personal space. No one has that right. And the trauma after this, when someone rapes someone else, when it happens, the victim stays with the trauma. The rapist not. He moves on with his life, or they go home and forget about what happened. They had a good time with someone, and now it's over with. But now there's still a long way for it, and I think it's unfair because the rapist gets most of the time to get away with it, and the victim has to heal on their own.
Yeah.
But our people should learn to speak up and not keep quiet, because for each case that keeps quiet, another rapist gets away with it and goes on to his next victim.
Right.
People should just learn to speak up, and children as well. They have learned to just keep it quiet because no one's going to believe them, especially in families when children are raped by another family member. They usually just keep it quiet because what's my family going to say? What's my father, my mother going to say? And parents should learn to listen to their children. If they tell you something is wrong, please go and investigate. Don't just leave it or say, no, my child's lying. Rather go and find out what child is lying than later find out they're telling the truth. And then it's too late.
Right.
So yes.
Okay. Now, Mandy, is there something you'd like to say in closing, just to people watching?
First of all, thank you so much for this platform and for giving that extra bit of voice to those who sometimes feel voiceless and unheard. Also, thank you, Annari, for giving me this opportunity. I just think that there's actually just a message that I just want to give, and I said it earlier, that do not allow injustice to be a hurdle in your path or your journey or your adventure, because sometimes it can be an adventure. Today you are here, tomorrow you are down there. In your journey to healing. There's always, and that's also the slogan of the Go Purple Foundation, there's always hope, healing, and victory. Speak up. I don't care. Even if you have to tell someone every single day, listen, something's happening to me. Even if they get fed up of hearing it, don't keep quiet. Speak up. You have a voice. Use your voice. Ladies, girls, men, boys, use your voice and educate those around you. Stop today. Stop what you're doing. Put down your cell phone. Switch off the TV. Don't go bra with your friends or have a barbecue. I don't know what you guys call it. Cancel the barbecue with your friends and spend time with those around you and educate them, because tomorrow they will educate someone else. Yes. And for those who are believers, I do believe that I would not have come this far without God. Absolutely. Like every single day, I thank Him because I'm lucky. Hannah Cornelius.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And now I'm getting emotional because Hannah she was not as lucky as I am, and she died.
Oh, no.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Andy, thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight. I mean, it must have been... You're a very courageous woman, let me put it that way. And, it's good that people around the world know what's going on in South Africa and the trauma that so many people face.
And go and report those cases. Even if you go every single day, go and report it.
Yeah.
Go and drive them insane. Go and report your case.
Annari.
Yes,
I'll come.
Yes. Well, Scott, I just also want to say thank you for this platform. I have learned to love all of you, Marlena, when she calls me. I'm struggling every day with so many things. And then scripture comes to mind where God says, where Jesus actually teaches us that trouble will come. And in the Word of God, there's always a God who wants us to plan, and I love what Mandy says, and that is one of the things that we really, and I've said it to AfriForum as well, I need every home in our country to have a rape plan, a trauma plan, whatever you want to call it, so that when trauma knocks on your door, when all hell breaks loose, that you have to know that the bad times that you are enduring in that moment, and maybe for weeks and months to come, like Mandy, will not last forever, and that the sun will shine again. But we have to realize, and like Mandy said, understand that around the world, reality is the enemy does not like people, and he doesn't like peace, he doesn't like love, and people will be raped. People will be murdered in front of us, loved ones, and we have to plan on that day. I'm not saying sit every day and top on, these bad things, but have a plan, like Mandy says, talk in your house about, because I said to my husband, what would you do? Because I want you to maybe, I don't know if you know Reese from Samsosa, I will give Marlena the information. He's dealing with men, only men who get raped in South Africa, and you must actually hear his stories to understand that it's not just women, it's men. But I've asked my husband, what would you do if they hijack you? Because apparently, according to Reese, in most of the hijacks, where there's a man involved, you know, they take the man and they rape him. But the men does not speak out because it's a part of their manhood that are taken in that robbery. So my husband said to me, he would drove off and shoot himself. And I said, okay, fine. So then the rapist raped you, took your life. What about us? So I think from the Purple Foundation side, we are voices and faces for hope, healing and victory. But that does not say that it's not a hard journey. And we will fight as long as I have a life and a voice, like Mandy says so preciously. I will try to find the funding we need to actually establish or continue being a place where that woman, especially die Afrikaans sprekende mense, want as jy in Afrikaans jou klagte wil gaan lê, you're not allowed to do it. You have to do it in English these days. And that is so unfair because my constitutional right is to report, and the national instruction says I as a victim has the right to do a statement in my own language. And we will fight, even if it's just for the Afrikaans people. I will always be willing to help other people. But if I can get a safe space for Afrikaans-speaking children, women and men who have been brutally raped or hurt in a criminal offense to do their statements and have a secure place where they can actually, you know, do the necessary things, we will do that by the grace of God. So Scott, thank you so much. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Denise. Good luck with you in Klerksdorp. I'm going to be side by side with you. And I believe in my heart, you know, thank God he's not in the economy corrupt or touched by COVID-19 or whatever. He will provide in the most amazing ways to enable us to actually help these survivors. Might it be a boy child, a girl child, a man or a woman, we can make that difference. I believe that in my heart. So Scott, thank you. And invite us, we will come and visit you in Australia.
I'd love that. Now,
Yes.
I just want to say that to everybody watching that, as Annari said a short while ago, these trauma centers, which are run by Annari and by Denise, they get no government funding. So I'm going to be putting their banking details down below this video. So if you feel so inclined, please feel free to donate money to them. These are very good people. Denise, can you send me your banking details by Skype, just in the message, and I'll drop that into the below the video as well. And Mandy, I have to tell you. Sorry, just go ahead, Denise.
No, I don't have a bank account for my personal organization, so I think you can just, if someone wants to donate, they can put it into Annari's account and just at a reference, just say Denise.
Okay, so they'll just put the reference of Denise in there. And Mandy,
Yes.
I just have to say that in the side chat, everybody is saying how brave you are and how much they love you and how much they will pray for you, and you know, I think it's absolutely tragic what's going on in South Africa. But
They will not break us, Scott. Let me tell you,
yeah.
You know what? When they rape a woman, they strike a rock. Somebody said that, and I've seen that. So yeah, we are going through tough times, but you know what? We're not alone, and we have people like you, Scott, Marlena, the Loving Life channel, people from overseas who has been wonderful to me in the past few weeks and months with COVID-19, with food, with the help that we needed for that. And I just thank the Lord for you, for having this platform. And yeah, we celebrate your channel, we celebrate our lives. And yes, it's tough in South Africa, But I believe in my heart it's going to get better. We just need to keep on going. That's all. Keep on going. That's all that we have to do. We cannot stop. We need to keep on going.
Right.
A Finding Dory reference. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Now, to all those people watching, don't forget tomorrow morning, I'm going to be covering the protests in Pretoria and Cape Town live. That's the Smokers Unite One organization. And it's not just cigarettes that are going to be on the agenda, but also farm attacks and farm murders and a whole lot of other things. So it's much wider.
That's
so
good.
please do participate in that. And talking about what Annari's just said, I just want to say to Marlena, thanks Marlena, you're just an absolute gem. She's like a rock. And she's basically the one who helps me set up all these live streams. To the other moderators, thanks guys for the great work that you do there. For those of you who've watched the live stream tonight, you're just starting to see the hidden face of the horrors of what's going on in South Africa. And it is a society living in fear, which is very, very tragic. It was not like that back in the 1980s when I was in South Africa. This corrupt, incompetent ANC government have totally destroyed a large part of society in South Africa, and it's very, very tragic. Alright, with that guys, I'm going to sign off and say please be safe, take care, and don't forget tomorrow morning, Cape Town, Pretoria, we're going to be covering the protest live, and tomorrow night we've got a jamming session with two great singers, so you'll be able to relax, break open the popcorn, have a whiskey beside you, and just listen to some great music and have a lot of fun. And of course we'll be doing trivia as well. So
Alcohol is banned in South Africa. Sorry.
Yes, so funny. Thanks, Scott.
all right guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Scott. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Maggie. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye Denise.